So we are in Fort Lauderdale, hanging out with Corey LeGrand, who is an IO psychologist. So, as you know, we have the IO soapbox, and one of the things that we're doing. That's actually how we met. Is Corey accidentally saw an episode and reached out and said hi, so we've become friends since. And part of the reason why we're doing the soapbox is to highlight the really cool work that IOs are doing, especially kind of the different work, right? You know, a lot of IOs are, not all of them, but we hear a lot about people who are working in large consulting firms or working for businesses that primarily work for people and with people who are sitting at their desks all day. So one of the things that we're trying to do is highlight work that's a little different and highlight people whose paths maybe into IO were a little bit different. So to that end, tell us a little bit about how you got into IO.
Well, I think everybody has that same narrative as, I'm thinking people that will become IOs. For me, I just had a really crappy boss that I didn't like. It was a toxic environment. I had to worry about reprisal on any time I said no to her. She was just one of those people that really wanted you to just go with the flow, and even if it was wrong, just don't let her know it was wrong. And your job security be good.
All right.
So I decided, no, not my thing.
So did you follow kind of the usual path, you know, undergraduate, directly into graduate school, or how did that look for you?
So the funny thing is, I was never thinking about becoming an IO until that situation happened, right? I was in the military for about 12 years in the Coast Guard. While there, I worked in logistics, so I definitely did a lot of accounting and accounting management. And, so I decided to get my bachelor's degree in finance. Once I left there, I was like, well, you know what? I want to be an athletic director because I love sports, right? So I ended up going to Lynn University, which is my favorite university of all the schools I've ever gone to. And I got my master's degree there, in master's in business administration. So then after that, that's when I was working at the hotel and, like I said, working for that toxic situation. And I mean, even though she made me mad, it didn't really drive me to be an IO. But what happened was I started looking at like the personnel manual. Like, is what she doing right? Yeah. Like, how come we don't have HR here? And like, there were other people who worked under this person for so long, and they didn't have a voice. And I was like, nah, there's got to be something to stop it. So I started researching like toxic workplaces. What does it look like, to make sure that my assumption of the environment I was in was accurate. Yeah. And it was. So then I looked at like, well, who would we talk to if no one has an HR? And there was actually a story that came up that talked about toxic work environment and how an IO was instrumental with providing solutions to it. So I was like, okay, I see where we're going here. And I just started like, Googling, no Wikipedia, but Googling like, what is an IO and what do they do? And it wasn't really focused per se, but it gave me a nice canvas to start branching out like, well, it does this, but technically I could do this, and I could kind of recreate the own role in my own way. Awesome. So yeah.
So what are you doing right now?
Well, right now I'm actually doing a lot of stuff in the community outside of work. Well, let me talk about work. So in work, I'm a trainer. I work for the federal judiciary as an IT trainer. I work here locally in the Florida Southern District, which consists of Fort Pierce, West Palm Beach, Broward County, Miami-Dade County, and Key West. And I'm pretty much over 2,000 employees, so I'm in charge, or entrusted more so, to train these 2,000 employees. I was recently recruited to be a part of the ambassador program. So it's a coalition of trainers that are in the government, and they fly us around to different courthouses and train other courthouses these stuff. So I guess in the IO capacity, like, training is a part of it, and developing training and coming up with different strategies and all the different modalities, and presenting that with my training concept. So that's my at-work IO hat. Outside of work is more so my nonprofit IO hat, where again, I'm still kind of training, but I also work in the community with providing people different, I guess, visions on how to see things, right? Like, okay, you have this one perception of it, and I'm not here to correct your perception because your perception is your reality. Have you thought about doing it this way? And for the most part, where I really latch into is like employment, because I was employed for a long time, And I was struggling with that. Like mentally, it was killing me. So if you follow me like on social media, I post a lot about career fairs and jobs because that is what I had to go through to get where I am now. So I'm like, hey, if it worked for me, it might work for someone else, right? So I think that's probably where the IO piece comes in at. I did start a podcast, and I talk about like IO topics, and it's funny, a lot of people that tune in, they're like, you know what, no one ever talked about that. You're right. Like, how do I deal with like the microaggression at work? Or I deal with the fact that, you know, my cousin is my boss and, you know, we don't get along, or people are, how do you manage nepotism at work? Does it even exist?
Yes.
So these things happen, and we talk about this stuff. We even talk about choosing the right health plan, you know, because you choose a health plan not really knowledgeable on what kind of insurance policy on it and stuff like that, it could cost you money, and that could stress you out. You're paying like $300 a month for a health care premium, and you can't buy food.
Yes, that
Do
happens.
you actually need that plan? So we talk about this type of stuff, and I think that it does tie into the IO realm as well. So,
what are you most excited about?
I guess for the most part, just making an impact on people's lives and the opportunity to actually grow this industry with the IO. Again, inviting people into our world and just telling them what we do, but then like stretching out, well, we could do this, and watching people's faces light up like, damn, I could do that, you know? I'm a part of a couple of social media, I'm a part of a couple of communities on there and platforms. I hear people all the time talk about, well, if you own this business, you should do this, and if you have this type of toxic work, and I was like, you ever thought about becoming an IO psychologist? Because you're right here giving out free advice. It's just not tested and proved, but you know, I mean, you're on the right path.
Is that how you know that it's not tested and proved, that they do it like this? Like
yeah,
this kind
like
of
little,
with the little hands
you
out
know,
here?
little gesture stuff, and then
And that's how you know. It's like there are no citations, no references.
Well, they do cite it. They cite it with memes. You know what I'm saying? And GIFs. So I mean,
shit! I'm not supposed to do that.
Well, I mean, it depends on what platform you're talking on.
All right.
But yeah, in social media world, no, you do not use the APA format. You just, you know, equipped it with maybe a Kanye GIF. You know, I don't know.
That seems pretty solid.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the people who watch the soapbox, the people who might be thinking about IO psychology, are kind of looking into it, not exactly sure if they want to or how to go about it. What advice do you have for people who are interested in IO psychology or who might be interested in IO psychology?
One thing that I did learn that I had to kind of research and find on my own, like there's kind of two different lanes with IO psych, right? You have academia and you have in the field. And I would definitely look at, well, what jobs are out there in the field? And if that fits your personality, then work with it. If you're like a big time researcher, but yet you're good with interacting with people, maybe academia might work for you. Yeah, you know, but it's different things to work with. And I think for the most part, for anybody that's considering the IO field, like we accommodate all styles, which is very inclusive, meaning that there's not a certain look to what we do or how we do or anything. So if you feel that you could be an IO, come on and join the clan and let's make a change.
Awesome. Anything else you want to leave them with?
Definitely. If you guys are watching this show, please come to my website, www.itsbreaktime.work. We talk about a lot of cool stuff, and hope to see you there too. And again, if you guys want to become an IO, there's room for the table for all, no matter who you are, what you look like. Please, your voice needs to be heard. Join the crew.